Good morning, everyone. This is Bob Burge with the Indiana Department of Workforce Development. Welcome to a very special virtual job fair. Today we're visiting with the folks from General Motors and VENTEC. We're going to go over a variety of jobs today and some very exciting news coming out of Kokomo these days. We have a record number of almost 800 people registered for today's program, and I know those are the kind of numbers that get these folks very excited because they need lots of people. I'm going to stall for just a second because I can see several of them are now logging on. So a couple things, housekeeping items I do want to go over. Like I mentioned, we have over 800 people registered. So on the upper right-hand side, you'll see the ability to send questions. We're not sure how many of those we'll get to today. We'll try to get to most of them. Those that we don't get to, someone from the recruiting team will get back to you. So on the upper right-hand side, do send us your questions. Today's program, you're going to get a lot of information. Today's program is being recorded, so things that you may miss or weren't able to write fast enough, you will be getting a recording about this time tomorrow. So a recording will be coming your way, and the employers will have, by registering, they'll have your contact information. So many of you may be contacted directly, so they will get your information. So I'm going to do, just to get things started, I'm going to do a couple polling questions. Let me open this up. And the first one I'm going to shoot out. This kind of helps the employers to know a little bit about you. So I got some results coming in here. I'm going to stall for about another 10, 15 seconds. And again, they're looking for both people that are employed and people that are not. So we know this is a very strange environment these days. So let me close this one out. I'm actually just going to share it with everyone so you can kind of see the results. So 72% unemployed, 28% unemployed. So let me do one more here. We'll do one more polling question. This speaks about the Kokomo area. So the question is, are you willing to relocate, or actually the question is, are you local to the Kokomo area? So let's push that out. 59% are close. So let me close that one out and share those results. So again, 59% are local, 41% not, and I know that I think they may even cover that in a little bit. So okay, let's proceed here with, okay, so we got a couple polling questions done. First, I want to bring up Deb Waymire. Deb is the COO with Region 4, the Workforce Development Board. Deb, thanks so much for putting this together and all your office does. I think I got a slide here that talks about, if I can bring that up. I think I got a slide here that talks about your region. But Deb, tell us a little bit about Region 4 and what you guys do.
All right. Thank you, Bob. And hello and good morning to everyone. On behalf of the Region 4 Workforce Board, welcome to today's virtual job fair. Our Workforce Board supports and collaborates with regional and state partners like the Indiana Department of Workforce Development, GM, and VENTEC to build a world-class workforce in Indiana. Our Work One System mission is twofold: assisting businesses by connecting them to talented job seekers through events like today's job fair, and for individuals being a key resource for employment, skill building, and career development. And although our Work One offices are closed right now, all of our staff are working remotely, serving job seekers and employers. For more information about the services that we do offer, please go to our website on this slide for our office locations and telephone numbers to reach our staff. Advanced manufacturing, like what we will hear about today, is the wealth driver of our region and brings economic success and a high quality of life for all of us. And that is going to be so clearly evident in Kokomo, where we have major companies like GM and others who have already brought billions of dollars to Kokomo, making it a vibrant city in which to live and work, and offers a wide range of recreational, educational, and social amenities. But I have to say, I am truly and especially excited for today's event, as this virtual job fair is very special, as it will not only provide outstanding employment opportunities, but for many, This work will also be making a difference in saving the lives of many individuals across our country. So I appreciate being part of this event today, and thank you to everyone participating.
Well, thanks, Deb, and thanks to you and the team in Region 4 for the great job you guys do up there. We see that. We get to see that every day. And with that, I'm gonna let's get into jobs. Let me kick it off to the guy who's really going to kind of run the show for today, Ben Melbourne. Ben, kind of give us a big picture, and then want to introduce some of your folks.
Hey, good morning, all. My name is Ben Melbourne, and I'm sitting on site down at Kokomo. Along with me is Amy Corby and Melissa Bohorsky, who are in remote from General Motors locations up in Michigan. We're going to talk to you about opportunities that we have open both with General Motors and with VENTEC, and talk through with you some of the positions we're trying to fill, details on the initiative that we're launching, and sort of lay out the groundwork and next steps for you if you're interested in moving forward with any of these opportunities. Quick background on myself. I've been with General Motors for 5 years. I've worked on both technical engineering roles and manufacturing roles at the plants, so I have good background and can hopefully speak to some of your questions. But I also want to give you some background on this facility. When Mary Barra made the agreement with VENTEC to help them build their ventilators, there's any number of locations we could have chosen. The reason that we chose this location in Indiana is that it's a facility that was developed specifically for manufacturing electronic components in a very clean environment, and that lent itself very directly to what we're trying to do with VENTEC. So for those of you not familiar with VENTEC, they're a smaller manufacturer on the West Coast. They're out of Washington State. They have this amazing ventilator product that does a lot of things that other ventilators do not do. I think it's important to emphasize the fact that we're building something that is a bespoke product specifically for this application. I think everyone appreciates the work that the Teslas of the world are doing, or the Ford is doing, but a lot of them are sort of retrofitting existing components to make ventilators, and trying to go through all the FDA approvals to make those work in a short amount of time. We are building a product that's already been signed off on by the FDA, has already been in use in hospitals and emergency rooms. So, I mean, it's an established product and something that we can feel very proud of. Now, getting back to our relationship with VENTEC, they're a small company on the West Coast. They're accustomed to building a couple hundred units a year, and that's it. Now we're being asked to scale up in a much larger fashion to 25 or 30,000 units in a very short amount of time, 3 or 4 months. That's something that they just don't have the expertise or bandwidth to do. So we're relying on them for their expertise in the healthcare field. We haven't built ventilators before. They're relying on us for questions of scalability and supply chain to be able to accommodate that level of production. So just some background on VENTEC and on General Motors.
Very helpful.
I do want to spend a moment before we talk about the specific roles, though. A lot of you have expressed interest in these opportunities, but maybe some reservations as well. Hey, Ben, I don't want to leave, the safety of my home. We're still under quarantine. Am I going to be at any risk if I do decide to move forward with any of these opportunities? I do want to assure you that our number one priority here is safety. None of this initiative means anything if we cannot assure a safe work environment here. So I am at the plant right now. Every day that you come in, you go through a full body thermal scan, so that even if people said they felt all right, we can check to see if somebody is running a fever. They do also go through some screening questions with the nurse, as far as, hey, have you left the country in the last 14 days? Have you been closely exposed to anybody in the last 14 days that has tested positive for COVID-19? So whether you're an employee, a contractor, a visitor, everyone has to go through the same screening steps. And I'll be honest with you, it does take a little bit of extra time to get in the building in the morning. But the upside of this is that once you're inside the building, you can concentrate on the work that you're doing and not have to concern yourself with, is the person next to me going to expose me to some sickness? It is a very safe work environment, and we go out of our way to make sure that everyone is safe. and is provided with the appropriate PPE, face masks, gloves, safety glasses, and disinfectant wipes, things like that. We also have modified some of our manufacturing steps a little bit, which we'll go into later. But if you go to other GM plants, you might be in a situation where they try to cross-train you to different workstations or different jobs to make you, exposed to more. That isn't the case here. Our first priority is making sure everyone's safe. So to that end, you're going to be at a workstation that is your own, that is your responsibility, but you're at that location all day long where you have some control over what you touch, and you won't be exposed to other people touching your work area. So in those regards, we have taken a lot of extra steps. But if you still have some questions or concerns, I would encourage you and your family or friends to visit the website at the bottom there, that gm.com/coronavirus. You can see some of the details of our safety protocol, as well as some pictures of what would the work environment be like if I was actually there. So we would encourage you to take a look at those. Next slide, please.
Well, thanks, Ben. I know I had a couple questions come in already about safety, so thanks for jumping on that right at the beginning. So again, it's very clear, safety first. And I know there's some certainly excitement in the facility there. We've not only seen it on statewide media, but literally nationally. I know the vice president visited last week, and I've seen B-roll that the president has run there. So you're part of really a greater good that's going on as well. I don't want to lose sight of that. So really kudos to all that's happening up there. So hey, employment. We're going to start talking about some jobs now. You ready to start getting in? We'll jump right in.
Let's dive in.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so this first one, I guess you're going to kind of give a little bit of overview with the big piece of this puzzle, right?
Yeah. So we do have both full-time and part-time opportunities available. We're generically calling the job umbrella manufacturing team member, but there are positions that we're going to be hiring for that are going to include production, are going to include quality assurance, supply chain, as well as back-end technicians. And we'll go through all those details, but yeah, we do have both full-time and part-time positions open, but it's just at a very high level. You do need to be available to work any shift. The hours will vary. There will be weeks where you might get some overtime. There might be some weeks where you're working a little bit less. I cannot guarantee you that you're going to be working one shift permanently. We'll have people say, hey, I'm happy to work overnight shifts, but I have to do overnights only. I can't guarantee you that. You have to be flexible to work any shift. The starting wage for this position is $16.67 an hour. And after 90 days, you are eligible for holiday pay and healthcare options. Because of the very compressed time frame that we have, and because of the budget restrictions we have, we unfortunately cannot consider relocation for this opportunity. We have had a lot of people, coming forward in good faith saying, hey, I want to help out any way I can, but, I'm 2 states over. Can you help relocate me? Unfortunately, that's not an option for us right now. A few things I do want to emphasize with you is, and we'll go into a little bit more detail, is that maybe you've worked in assembly in the past, or you've worked in automotive in the past, either OEM or tier supplier. That's good. That's definitely a benefit. But in this case, I want to emphasize that these are challenging positions. I can't emphasize that enough, both from a technical standpoint and from an administrative standpoint and from a physical dexterity standpoint. We'll dive into that a little bit more, but I think some of the folks we've spoken with that that we placed already, they're happy, they're having a good time. But that is some feedback that was provided to me is, hey, I didn't know that there's going to be this much administration. This is different than anything we've done before. This is not bolting a bumper onto a car. This is something that is directly going to affect somebody's life and potentially save somebody's life. So for that reason, there's a lot more oversight from a regulatory standpoint, and they need to know everyone that's touched each unit as it goes through the manufacturing process. There's 16 or 17 different workstations that each unit goes to, and they basically need to know if there's a failure at any point. They need to know where the issue was so they can go back to that workstation and say, Was it something with our work instructions? Was it something with the quality assurance that the supply chain didn't send us the right part? Basically, this is a zero failure environment, and they need to make sure that the unit that goes out the door is going to work 100% of the time. If you don't mind clicking on the full-time job description link there, and we'll just sort of
Sure.
go over this. We don't want to sit there and read it. You know what? The next slide covers a lot of this anyway, so we can, if it's not cooperating, we can go to the next slide, and I can touch on a lot of it anyways.
Okay.
So yeah, I did want to sort of emphasize again, there are a lot of people that have been very successful in other manufacturing environments, and then I'll put it plainly, they come here and they struggle because this is a different type of manufacturing environment. We did want to sort of throw up some pictures there so you can see it yourself. And that's a really good example here is, has anybody ever had to run out to the corner CVS because grandma's glasses broke and you have to get the eyeglass repair kit? You're sitting there and you're fiddling with the tiny little screwdriver and the tiny little screws, and you're like, wow, that was different, or that was challenging. That's not one time a day. That's hundreds and hundreds of times a day. So if you find that work rewarding, great, we have a place for you. If you find that work frustrating, which some of us do, you might not enjoy this type of work as much. It's very finite, very fine manual dexterity jobs that you're going to be doing over and over. Is there anything else on this slide, or we scroll down a little bit?
No, I don't think so. But a very good point, and I think those pictures help illustrate that, Ben. I think the next slide talks a little bit about the physical part involved. I think you referenced some of that, so see this.
And I do want to emphasize walking, and that seems like a strange thing to bring up, but it is worth noting. We do require that everyone that comes into the plant comes in through one door, and to that end, we're able to ensure that everyone has a safe experience here. But it is a very large facility, and so to that end, having the right footwear and being ready to walk. It is a very large facility where you're walking from one end of the plant to the other, or going from one building to the other. There are some candidates that have brought that feedback to me saying, hey, I didn't know I was going to be walking this much. Some other things, you will be moving around, handling product, handling materials. You're also going to be responsible for minor housekeeping at your location or your workstation. So we require flexibility because we did set this up as quickly as we can. This isn't a situation where you fold your arms and say, hey, I'm waiting for somebody else to come and do this. We need people that can take responsibility for their own workstation and make sure that they have a neat and organized work location, not just from a work standpoint, but also from a documentation standpoint. When you come on and you say, hey, I'm interested in applying, well, what's involved with that? There are some pre-hire assessments, both online assessments and on-site manual dexterity assessments. There are drug testing steps, and that is hair testing. So I want to emphasize that too. This is hair testing for drug screen, which does go back a little bit longer than just a standard urine test, and a background check. So again, all those steps must be completed before you can start. And just some other loose ends. You need to be 18 years of age or older. Must be able to work in the United States, and I can't put too fine a point on it. Must be willing to work any and all shift as well as possible overtime hours. Next slide.
Hey, yeah, Ben, I got a question that came in about what's the average time for somebody that, hey, I'm interested, and how soon these things all go as expected, quickly. How soon can I go from being interested today to being on the line and working? Average.
The quickest I've seen was 5 days. I would say cautiously probably more like 7 to 10 days before you're actually working.
That question's come in, and that's certainly a good answer. So next, I'm interested, again, a quick reminder, you are going to get into engineering and some other positions as well, right? But this is where the lion's share of the stuff is. Yeah,
the majority of the jobs we're hiring for are going to be more production, but Melissa is going to speak to some of the engineering roles that VENTEC has open right now. But I did want to, some people are already chomping at the bit. Hey, I want to apply. Where can I go? We did offer this slide to you here. There's the QR codes there on the right side of the screen, the full-time QR code, and then below that, the part-time role. You can just scan that now, or you can go down to the bottom and just use that URL, the apply2gm.com. We included the street address on here only for reference sake, just so that you can see, plug it into Google Maps and see how far the commute would be or whatever the case is. I would not recommend physically showing up to the plant to apply, only because this is such a large facility, only because there are so many protocols to getting into the facility. And there really isn't a lot of infrastructure. Most of the people that are here are actively working and training individuals to get up to speed. We don't really have like a personnel office per se that people can walk up to. So to ensure that you guys have a positive application process, I would strongly recommend applying online. I would not recommend coming to physically apply if that helps and makes things a little bit easier for you.
Okay, and I did get a couple questions coming in. I don't know if you want to throw this to Amy or Melissa, but some people that have previously applied, and one of them had mentioned specifically they're kind of in the middle of the process and they haven't heard anything yet, or they're having trouble getting back on. So if they've applied already, should they reapply starting today, or what kind of advice can we give them?
Yeah, I mean, if you would couple answers to that. Short answer is if you had applied to a production position and hadn't heard back, there is a website that Bob or Dave can share. It's gmsupport@psi.com, where you can say, hey, I just need an update on this, and usually within 24 hours they can say, hey, here's where it's at, or expect a call by this date for the production positions. And then if you're maybe in between, maybe you say, hey, I've got a degree in electrical engineering and I want to come in and assist with, some of the quality engineer positions, or, validation engineers, or whatever the case is that Melissa's going to speak to. There are avenues that you can apply to those positions as well. And we want the best qualified people in the best position that fits them. So don't feel reserved. We have had people that said, hey, I applied to the production position. I'm in flight on that, but you know what? I have a degree, or maybe I have 20 years of quality technician experience, or you know what? I have electrical engineering degree, and I think maybe Melissa's positions with VENTEC would be a better fit for me. Am I going to hurt anyone's feelings if I apply for that? No, by all means, apply for that, and we'll make sure that we get you in front of the right folks. So please don't feel hesitant about applying to one or multiple positions that you think is best for you.
Okay, and before we move away from the production positions, there are lots of those positions open. You need a lot of people, skills with a little bit of training, right? I mean, this is where the lion's share is. I know next we're going to move into some others, but this is where the action is, right?
I would say probably 90% of the positions we're going to be filling are more the production positions. And again, that's assembly folks, that's quality assurance, that's supply chain folks. Primarily, that's the three categories that they would fall into. So if you have a preference, one or the other, let us know during the application process, and we can try to get you steered toward those. But then, yeah, Melissa will speak a little bit to some of the more technical focused jobs.
Okay, so next we're going to move into the VENTEC side. That's some other things, right? So Melissa, you want to kind of get this kicked off?
Hi, yes, thanks, Bob. Thanks, Ben. I would like to start with emphasizing that even though these positions do work in the Kokomo facility alongside our production roles that Ben had covered, these are still VENTEC hires. So I know that there's been some confusion on that. And I can say that eventually, General Motors is going to go back to doing what they do best, right? And that's manufacturing vehicles. And then at that point, these positions would then stand alone and carry on as VENTEC full-time permanent hires. The positions that I'm going to touch on today are around production supervision, leadership, and quality operations in the plant. So these are more of the salaried opportunities and more technical skill set. With knowing that half of the folks that are listening in today are not local to the facility, I can tell you that for the most part, relocation is not offered for many of our positions. However, there are many that do offer relocation benefits, and we can always discuss those offline with those candidates as they apply. Also, all of our positions, different benefits than what would be given in different pay scales as what you would see in some of those more manufacturing team member positions that Ben highlighted. From a benefit standpoint, very high level, there will be a medical, dental, and vision package given. And there's also going to be some supplemental insurance programs, additional benefits and perks, and those would kick in being the first of the month after their first month of hire for folks with us over 30 days. And again, we can do deep dives on benefits for candidates as we work them through the process. Shifts for them, we are a 3-shift operation, as Ben mentioned. However, our positions that I'll be discussing with you are going to be around first shift primarily. However, we are asking folks also have that flexibility to work those off shifts based off of what the business needs are. More so second shift, I'd say, than a third shift or an off shift, but it can happen. So having that flexibility is certainly important to us. And from a salary standpoint, these are salaried positions, not hourly rates, and they do vary based off of the position. However, those ranges would be based off of, they are competitive and based off of the market range for the Indiana area. Of course, also taking into consideration candidate experience, their education as a whole. I can also say, if we're able to move to the next slide so we can see some of those positions listed. Thank you. For our engineering positions and our production manager role, as you'll see there, all of these roles are going to require a 4-year degree. That could be in engineering, biotech, life sciences, and also master's degree is preferred, but not required for all roles. And there are going to be some variations in these position requirements, and I'll bring Amy in after I go through some of these to highlight any differences that we might see in more of those production or quality operation roles to those solely in engineering or manufacturing engineering. It's also very important that you have medical device experience for these positions. And we understand that, especially many of you being local to Kokomo, this industry is something that we don't see broadly in this area. Most of the hubs are in the Chicago area, Cincinnati. So even if you have experience in a regulated environment, as Ben touched on, where we have these specific requirements that we're held against. So if you have aerospace experience, for example, military defense, they also are regulated environments that have those types of guidelines, and that experience is certainly translatable. And then, also I'd say from a timing perspective, that was one of the questions, is when you can anticipate to hear back from us. The team's very receptive, and I can say that, as we continue to ramp up, we're usually able to get in touch with candidates, within a week or so of their application, oftentimes even much less. And then I'd say usually with your onboarding, I'd say within 30 days, you should be hired, as our positions also require a drug screen and full background check to be considered. So we would have to take into consideration that timing to get you onboarded and up to speed before your hire. And other than that too, where you can see those positions, again, very high level today, but you can see those positions and the full job requirements on our website, venteclife.com. You can apply there, and then you can also reach out to us and we can talk offline. But I will kick it over to Amy, unless, Bob, you had any specific questions for me, and Amy will continue to talk more about those manufacturing engineering opportunities.
Yeah, let's take a real quick break and do a couple more polling questions. I have, this will help you guys, the recruiters, with some experience. You'll see the first one. Do you have experience with electronic components? Simple yes or no. And we'll let this run for a little bit, and I'll keep this, the results of these for you guys to have. And I know some of these, there's some training available as well. So this just helps you guys when you do your follow-up. So I'm going to give this another couple seconds, and then let's close this one out. And then I want to do one more. This has to do with assembly. So the next one is, have you worked in production and assembly previously? So again, this will help the recruiters when they make their follow-up call. And again, some of this training is available. So, all Okay, let me close that out, and thanks for your time for doing that. And with that, I think, Amy, you're going to dive in a little bit deeper into some of these others. Amy, I believe you may still be muted. Uh-oh.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
There you go.
My name is Amy Corby, and I want to address some of the roles that I'm working on. Specifically, all my roles, most of them do require a four-year degree. My test engineer is one that does not, looking for more of experience. So make sure you take a look at the requirements of the job when you do apply. With the engineering degrees, not always do you need medical device experience, because these are some Lean, Six Sigma, things like that are required, and those specific duties and responsibility of the job they are transferable between industries. So the medical device is not required. When you do apply, we are reviewing the ATS pretty much daily to review candidates and sending out either interest or letters to them. So feel free to look at those job descriptions, review the qualifications, and apply, and Melissa and I will get back to you.
Okay.
Amy and Melissa, are those titles that are up there right now, is there one or two that are in greatest need over others, or are they all kind of equally needed?
They're all equally needed. Yeah, they're all equally needed. The ones that are probably the top of my list would be the electrical design engineer and the test engineer, and Melissa probably has some on her list that are on top.
Yep, that's right. I would say quality supplier auditor, certainly something at the top of the list, and quality director, so filling those opportunities is top priority for me.
Okay, hey, I got a bunch of good questions coming in. Are you guys ready?
Ready.
Okay, let's start jumping into some of these. And again, just a quick reminder, we're not going to be able to get to all these today, and some of these address pay and some of the little more sensitive issues. I assume I'll leave that to you guys to follow up with on a one-on-one basis. Does that sound fair? Okay. Hey, let's jump right in. There's several questions coming in, a lot of interest on the length of these positions, and then a specific question, the chances of staying on and furthering their career at GM. So I don't know which of you, Ben, you want to handle this on the bigger picture of how temporary or permanent can these become, and then GM specifically.
Okay. Yeah, the duration, I would say, needs to be flexible, only because number one, the number of units that were being ordered keeps changing every day. And number two, as we sort of, develop this out of the box, the needs, how many people we need for each group, and how long they're going to be here is very much in flux. So I would be very hesitant to make any hard and fast promises. But I do want to be transparent. Particularly, there's a lot of interest in these positions from folks that may be furloughed from full-time positions, and they're weighing, do I stick around and wait to get called back? Do I move over to GM? So I mean, in the interest of full transparency, I would rather under-promise and over-deliver. But in terms of duration, I would say cautiously, through the end of the summer or through the fall would be about as much as we could make any, promises on. Could it be longer? Yes, but I would be hesitant to make any promises beyond that. And with regards to, what does this become something else? That would be Melissa and Amy's positions with VENTEC. Those would be probably a little bit more long-term, some of the skilled positions where they're going to be hiring them on. And what happens after that, VENTEC would be responsible for that. But for the folks coming to work for us in hourly positions, production, they're asking, well, hey, maybe I come in there and I do a great job. Is there any chance that I can get hired somewhere else? The short answer to that right now is there's no guarantees of getting moved around. This is a unique circumstance that we're in right now, where we had to scale up very quickly to respond to a public health crisis, and we don't know for certain that that we're going to have those needs elsewhere, particularly when we haven't seen the fallout from, you know, financial impact of people losing their jobs. Whatever forecasting we had in the past may not account for, you know, what the forecasting will look like in the future. So the short answer to your question is these are outstanding jobs. They're valuable jobs to come in and help save people's lives, but it's a job unto itself. I wouldn't make any promises beyond this.
Okay, very well. And then some questions come up about the shifts, 8-hour shifts, 40-hour weeks. Can some of you speak to that?
Yeah, again, you do need to be available to work any shift. You know, I think getting a consistent 40 hours a week, if you're full-time, is reasonable. There might be some weeks
Dan, I think we may have lost you.
where you work less. There might be some
Okay.
weeks where you work more. And again, a lot of that is driven by, oh,
Oh, we may have lost Ben.
can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Yep, we can still hear you.
Go right
Okay.
ahead, Ben.
So yeah, again, a lot of the work that we're doing is driven by, oh, can you hear me?
Yeah. There you go. We can see
Yeah,
you.
you can hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Yeah, so because of the restrictions that, you know, work is driven more by, you know, when the supply chain can meet the demand, sometimes they're a little bit behind, sometimes they're ahead. So yeah, it requires flexibility. If you're working full-time, I would say a reasonable expectation is 32 to 40 hours a week. Occasionally, you might be working more with overtime, and then part-time, of course, would be less than that.
Okay, so lots more questions. Let me bring up another one here. So someone asked about top payout. I think we also talked about the best follow-up to that is with the recruiters, correct? And
Correct.
and I think you really just covered the length of the positions, I think, adequately. Lots of questions coming in on this. When can I start? I know you covered that 5 to 7 days approximate. Anything else you want to add to that? Sounds like there's lots of interest.
Yeah,
I'd
just
say within
be
a month,
patient.
a little bit lengthier. Oh, I'm sorry, Ben. A little bit lengthier for the VENTEC side and that onboarding piece. So 30 days or less for our opportunities.
Okay. Let me jump to. Oh, there's a couple questions on the in-person physical and dexterity test. Could you kind of describe, is that a one-on-one deal, how that works? Any detail on that?
Yeah, it's kind of a classroom setting. There's, I think, up to 8 to 10 applicants that test at the same time. And basically you're using, I wish I could say it was more glamorous than this, but they're basically asking you to take a pair of tweezers, picking up like very small pins and placing them into holes in different locations and different arrangements. And you know, they give you 15 minutes to complete it. So I mean, you'll probably spend more time driving to the site than you will be actually testing. But again, it seems a little redundant, but at the same time, that is what a lot of the work is. So we want you to feel comfortable with that and feel confident in that fine motor skills, you know, like threading a needle or you know, doing an eyeglass repair kit. If you feel comfortable doing that, you'll have no problem at all with the on-site assessment.
Okay, and just a reminder to those, I'm getting lots of good things back here that are good things to add. You know, I just got one that came in and said, I am familiar with electronic components. Those are good things for you to see, right? So if it's not necessarily a question, pass that on because these recruiters will be seeing that. Full and part-time, I don't know if there's anything you can add. I mean, is there a vast majority of these you're needing full-time? Is there good flexibility between part and full-time? And is there a part-time hours? You went over the full-time hours. Anything they should be aware of on the part-time hours?
Well, first things first, let me say the majority of the hiring we're doing right now is full-time. We're kind of looking over the horizon where we may need some more part-time support, and we're going to probably start recruiting for that, you know, in the weeks to come. But I would say the primary focus right now is still on the full-time hours. With regards to part-time hours, we have had a lot of candidates reach out to us and they'd say, hey, I have a full-time job during the week, but this is important enough that I would like to come and help out. Can I come and work on the weekend? And we did reach out to leadership to say, hey, is that a possibility? They said, unfortunately, no. They still need kind of 100% flexibility to work any day, anytime, even for the part-time positions, which is, a challenge for some folks, I understand. But again, in the interest of full transparency, that's what we're looking at for the part-time positions as well.
Okay. If you guys are still okay, I'm going to continue this because there's been no shortage of questions. A lot of them are very good. So let me jump to technology jobs and other jobs. I know we went through several today. Is that basically where I know that's where the demand is. Anything else you want to add, any of you, on technology jobs or other jobs? I assume probably that part of that answer is the website, right?
Absolutely. You can see all of our up-to-date opportunities on the website, and primarily are, again, engineering, those more technical skill sets from the VENTEC side at least, and then also a lot of emphasis on quality operations positions right now.
Okay. Question on multiple questions on folks with limited English speaking. Are there some of these positions that they would be okay for?
Let me put it to you this way. I will say that some of the candidates and employees that we've had that English has been their primary language, there has been a learning curve associated specifically with the documentation pieces, and all the standard work instructions, all the communications are going to be in English primarily. So I wouldn't say no as far as, I don't want to discourage anyone from applying, but as far as actually being happy and satisfied in the role, there might be some challenges if you didn't feel confident in your communication skills in English.
Okay. Okay. Anything else you want to add on that? Someone had gotten a lot of questions. I'm sure you guys will follow up with about people that have previously applied. One of them had applied a while back and was told they can't apply for a year. Is that pretty much the program, or should a person like that got that earlier in the year still go ahead and apply now? Things have changed.
So if someone did apply and is not eligible to apply for a year, they need, number one, there's probably a reason. Maybe it was they took a buyout package in the past and it might affect their retirement. Maybe it was some pre-hire screening that there was an issue with, whether it's drug screen or background check, whatever the case is. But I guess I would encourage you guys just to follow the instructions that you've experienced during the application process. We have had folks that have said, oh, well, I'll just, I applied with this email address, I'll just apply with a new email address. They still catch those on the back end and they still get the same response. So if somebody did instruct you not to apply for a month or 12 months or whatever, please be respectful of that instruction. Okay.
And again, we're getting a lot of different varying questions here. More than one has come in about ex-offenders. I mean, is that how will that affect somebody that's got something on their background or their record, but have skills and interest in this area?
Sure. No, I'm glad you brought that up. We do want to, encourage people to apply. There are some folks that, had minor offenses and we were able to work with them. There are other folks that maybe had convictions that were felony convictions that involved assault or something that could create a dangerous work environment. I can't speak to every single scenario. I would encourage folks to apply. Our third-party vendor does background checks on all the candidates that apply, and we would give you a clear answer before we would ask you to come out and start working. But yeah, there isn't a blanket response for that. I'm sorry.
Okay, and for somebody who's willing to relocate, you can be outside the area and go through some of this testing, and perhaps it will work for them as well if they're willing to make the move, right?
They are, but the one asterisk I will put over that, just from my own, I am an interloper here as well. I came from Michigan to be down here the last couple of weeks, and there's a lot of hotels in the area, but they're usually, maybe accustomed to being 50% full, and now all of a sudden there's all these General Motors folks that are descending on the city. And there are a couple of hotels that I called where they just straight up said, we have no rooms. So, little things like hotel rooms or extended stay America or grocery stores, things that you might count on under normal circumstances or normal times, they may not be available. Just simple things like getting carry out
Sure,
from a restaurant.
sure.
Some places
Yep.
just closed out. So it is a challenge. It's hard enough being an outsider to come in and get acclimated when you have a hotel room. If you don't have lodging, it might be that much more challenging. So short answer to your question, please apply. Yes, we want everyone to apply that's interested, but look before you leap as far as, the infrastructure and planning in place before you physically drive here.
Okay, and again, I got several more coming in. I just want to get a couple more of these more common
Sure.
ones in before we wrap up. I think we've gone a little bit past our time, but again, some really good stuff. And a lot of them are pretty specific about the job itself that I think you guys are better off answering on a one-on-one basis. But a couple things, the production staff on these positions, is there any certification required? I know you kind of covered that, but can you just reemphasize that?
No certification required. Honestly, it's just a willingness to come and work hard. If you have reliable attendance history and willingness and vigilance. The one thing I've emphasized with everyone that I've spoken on before is that this is brand new for us. We're not, building car seats or doing final assembly. We haven't built medical components before. So there is a learning curve, and we're also developing expanding a supply chain that was in place but was not accustomed to doing this volume before. So you, as an individual production worker at your workstation, you may be doing everything right, but maybe the standard work instructions needed tweaking, or maybe the supplier sent parts that didn't meet the requirements or whatever the case is, and you may wind up having to do some rework. It's not a reflection of you personally. We just need people to be patient and vigilant and resilient because there are going to be setbacks. We're trying to do something we have not done before, particularly in these first couple of weeks. We hope to be up to speed where we just start cranking these out one after another, but we're not there yet. So I'll be honest with you as far as what to expect when you get here.
Okay, and again, some of these questions are getting really specific that I'm going to leave to you guys to follow up later, but a couple more. Somebody that's very interested but just does not have experience working in the dexterity area with really small parts like that, they can still apply. Will that work against them, or can they still come in and apply and take that test and maybe find out they actually can work?
They 100% should still apply. They may come in and find out that they're really good at it, even if they haven't done it before. They may find that they succeed at that, and if not, then it's 15 minutes of your time that you lost. But I would rather have that person apply and try it out for themselves than to discourage themselves in any way. Please, please, please apply.
Okay, I keep saying this, just a couple more. Is a GED required?
Not required. Again, for the production positions, we're more interested in your work history, your availability, your flexibility, and I would say just if you've had similar work experience in the past in a production environment, then please apply.
Okay, question on Sunday work is, I assume these are a 7-day-a-week operation. Is there any lowdown or slowdown on Sundays? Anything you can speak to on Sunday work?
I will say it's the exception and not the rule, but I would be lying if I said that we haven't had people come in on Sunday, because maybe we were waiting for that delivery of parts from the supplier and it comes in late Saturday night and we got to get everything ready for everyone else down the flow on Monday. So some of those folks wind up coming in on Sundays. So is it the norm? No. Do you have to be flexible to do it if it comes up? Yes.
Do you rotate positions every time you work, or is that just kind of depending on demand and need?
You're going to be pretty much in the one position that you're in, continuously. They're going to spend a lot of time and effort to train you on that workstation and on that process and know who to get in contact with if there's an issue. And we want you to be able to leverage that expertise so that you can work as quickly and efficiently as possible. Now, that being said, if you get out on site and you see someone across the hall and, hey, you know, they put me into a production role, but I'd done a lot of quality assurance work in the past and I think I could really contribute, then definitely put your hand up and let them know. But ultimately, our goal is to move forward with the folks that we place on site in the positions that they're assigned to.
Okay, and I promise just two more. Go ahead, Melissa.
Sorry, I wanted to add on that too, Ben. Now, there's also on-the-job training and orientation for those folks too as they start, right?
Correct. We're not going to throw you into the deep end of the pool and say figure it out. We're gonna work very closely with you to make sure you get up to speed before you even start assembling your first pieces.
Okay. Benefits. I know you mentioned the lion's share of this is full-time work. Are there any benefits available for the part-time work?
Not for the part-time work, no.
Okay. And the last one, let's end on this one. It has to do with VENTEC specifically. Are there any for the folks either in college or just getting out of college? Are there any summer internships available?
Not that I'm aware of, but stay tuned and keep up to date on our website. Again, that's where anything would be listed. But you know, as Ben said, we're all brand new in this environment. So even though VENTEC has been around, there may be opportunities at our Washington facility for more of those internship type opportunities. However, for Kokomo right now, we're just focusing on experienced hires.
Okay, and again, there's many more continuing to come in, but we're going to get things wrapped up for now. Again, stay tuned. Amy, anything else? Any final words from you?
No, thank you. Yes, I would just encourage everyone that is interested in any of the roles to read the qualifications and apply.
Okay, and I just got one in. It said, what if you applied for a part-time position but would like to have a full-time position? You guys are going to see that, and you'll deal with that when you do the follow-up, right? So, Melissa, how about you? Any final comments?
No, this is great. Thank you for giving us the opportunity today and for taking some time for those who join, and we hope to talk to you in further depth soon.
Okay, great. Ben, great job today. Final comments from you.
No, thank you again for setting this up. We're really excited about everything that's going on, and I can't say it enough how exciting, you know, these are all volunteers from other GM locations around the country who put their hands up to say, I want to be a part of this. So it is a really infectious environment here where everyone's really excited and everybody builds off each other's enthusiasm. And yeah, we would love to have you on board. So come on out and apply.
Great. I'm glad you ended it there, Ben, with the greater good, and that there is something really special going on in Kokomo. So with that, I want to thank you guys for all you have done and all the folks that attended today. Again, it was a record-breaking number. We're doing various job fairs, but this is the one that hit the definitely hit the high mark. And a special shout out to Deb Waymeyer and the folks from Region 3 for all they do. So with that, we're going to with Region 4. Deb's in Region 4. We know that. So. With that, we're going to conclude today's program. Thanks again for joining, and look forward to some follow-up from the folks from Kokomo. Thanks.
Thank you.